Welcome to ISE 2022 in beautiful Barcelona, Spain. I am here with Justin Shong, who is the VP of Sales and Marketing for Jupiter. Justin, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I've been talking, obviously, we'll see on all my other interviews, but kind of the first question I've been asking everybody is, it's been a long time since we've had a chance to see each other.
Been a minute.
Now, ironically enough, you and I are probably close enough that we could have driven to see one another back in California.
Once the restrictions got lifted, absolutely.
It would have been a little bit easier. But here we are in Barcelona
Halfway
together.
around the world.
Exactly. And the show is kind of humming.
It really is.
We've really seen. Tell me your impressions of, finally coming out of the pandemic and kind of the starts and stops and the hiccups that we've had as an exhibitor.
Sure.
You can speak to that more than anything else. But what are you feeling about the show? What's your impression?
There was a lot of uncertainty coming into it. Europe's different than the United States, certainly in terms of some of the restrictions and the regulations that go on top of it. So there was a bit of uncertainty, right? And then the cancel, roadshow, push, sort of kind of in and out, and we were all kind of wondering what it was going to be like. I came in about a week ago with the booth crew to help build the booth out. And once we started seeing all of the other exhibitors too, I mean, it was a madhouse down there building the booth.
A little like the old days.
Just like it was in the old days. It really was. And so we were feeling pretty good at the end of last week, right? And registrations were, I was talking to Dave, registrations were 45,000 kind of attendees last count. And he was feeling really good about the numbers that were actually going to come. And so coming into the show, we're like, it's going to be positive. We figure day one is always a little slower. Days 2 and day 3 are the busy ones, and then day 4 kind of trails off. Day 1 was spectacular. We had, a couple hundred really qualified leads, conversations, opportunities in the booth. It was packed, shoulder to shoulder. We may be down in total numbers a little bit, but the interest is certainly higher. And I think we saw that even at InfoComm last year, the attendance was way down, but the people that were there should have been there, right? They had projects, they had budget, they had reasons to be there. And we're seeing a bit of that same thing here, where the folks who are attending are not shopping for pens and trick-or-treating for bouncy balls for their kids. They're here because they have a reason to be here, and they have projects and they have needs, and business is opening up again, and it's wonderful. I mean, the last 2 years have been a challenge for everybody.
Well, and speaking about, needs and being here, obviously you're exhibiting on the show floor. Yep. You've got some partnerships you're also working through. Tell us a little bit about somebody who's visiting. There's some great news, some new news that you just announced.
Yep.
Walk us through that.
So, we've built a fair amount of partnerships leading into the show. So Jupiter's always been, for the last 40 years, we've been known as that kind of highest end processor you can get in the video wall. If you need to put somebody in space, you're going to use our processor, right? If you need to run a country's control rooms for traffic control and emergency management, it tends to be our stuff. But it's always been behind the scenes, right? It's sexy to people who care about that and are in the control room, but it hasn't been kind of this bigger splash. So Jupiter decided a couple of years ago, when we pulled the company out of InFocus and reincorporated as an independent entity, that we're going to extend our expertise in visualization to kind of the next logical step, which for us was the display systems. So we came out with the concept of a 21:9 aspect ratio monitor family. We've got a 105-inch, we've got an 81-inch, and we just announced our 34-inch desktop collaboration platform, both in interactive and non-interactive.
Desktop
collaboration.
In a new way of explaining desktop.
It is. So you and I were talking about this a little bit before the interview. We'll be on a Teams call 1 minute and a Zoom call the next minute and a Google Meet call after that and maybe a Blue Jeans call or whoever. If you buy into a single device in a single ecosystem, while you might not be completely locked in, it's a little more difficult to do it as opposed to what you're doing from your own device anyway. So R34 is platform agnostic, compute agnostic. It's a single USB-C connection to the compute device, right? It's a tablet, it's a laptop, it's a desktop, whatever you want to do, it's fine. And we send the video, audio, power. So I'm running it on a Surface Pro, and it's powering the Surface Pro over the USB, and then touch back to it. So, and the other cool thing about it is, as a touch monitor, we looked at it and went, if it's in a 90-degree position to the ground, the only thing you're going to use touch for is maybe scrolling up and down on a web page. So we built it so it articulates down like a drafting table, comes with an integrated stock, comes with a stylus, comes with a camera, comes with speakers and an 8-mic beamforming array as a package, so that when you articulate it down, you can actually use it like a drafting table. So if you're doing design work, if you're an artist, if you're doing any kind of engineering or CAD work, if you're marking up documents even, it's actually usable. And that's kind of what we looked at, is how do we build something that fits in customers' existing workflow? Because retraining and adoption is the hardest part of this, right? It's not selling them a piece of technology. It's getting people to actually use the technology. And the best way to drive that adoption is to help them use the tools they already know better. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're even doing that on the large aspect, the large monitors. We're partnered with Aleo, we're partnered with a company called Ramago. There's several other software partners that we're working with that are allowing for kind of touch integration, collaboration platforms, and each one of them have their different kind of strengths, but being able to use the technology. The 21x9 is from an ergonomic perspective, even though it's 8 feet wide, it's only little less than 3 feet 4 inches tall. So you can mount it in such a way that all of the pixels are accessible to 95% of the population. And it doesn't matter whether you're 5 foot tall or 6'6". You're going to be able to get to the top and the bottom of the monitor and actually use it. And that was kind of our part of our driving force is when, again, we can build great technology, but if nobody adopts it, nobody uses it, it's just an expensive piece of glass hanging on the wall. So how do we make it accessible, right? And whether it's you bringing your own device on the desktop or being able to get up in front of your peers and actually look, dignified and touch the monitor as opposed to trying to jump up to hit a button at the top of it, which would dissuade you from ever getting up in front of it, it invites people in to use the technology, use the software, use the platforms, and actually be more productive.
Great. Couple of partners. I know there's some great partners. Some household names are working their way in.
One or two. So Microsoft has announced as part of their best practice in their EMTR room design guide that 21x9 aspect ratio is their preferred aspect ratio for immersive video conferencing. And the Teams guys, and I hate to say Teams team, but the folks at Microsoft who have designed Teams really took a look at the in-room video conferencing experience, right? Over, as we've moved from the Polycoms and the Ciscos and kind of what we grew up with traditional video conferencing with people and content, and it was in the room, to the desktop and mobile experience, which really did expand the market. But then when you wanted to go back in the room, you took a desktop application on a PC and threw it on a big monitor, and it didn't work as well because it shrunk the heads, and you were basically just sharing content, and you had an audio call, and you couldn't tell if the far side was engaged. You couldn't tell if the other guy was asleep, or if it was interesting, or if whatever. So it negated the reason for having a video conference. So they redesigned the experience to give us back that real people and content. And the way they've laid out front row, they've laid it out in such a way that when you're participating from the far end, you're using your regular standard desktop Teams application like you're always used to. But in the room on an MTR, you really do see the content, and you really do see heads that are about a foot tall now, so you can actually tell that the other folks are engaged. And it brings that, we're hearing a lot about conferencing equity, right? Or kind of that kind of thing where the far end's as important as the in-room.
Yes.
But the in-room's important too, and you got to be able to see other folks on the far end. And that's what this kind of does, is it gives us that kind of equity where, we can't all be in the same room anymore. Even without COVID, teams are distributed,
right?
Let alone, whatever hybrid work turns out to be at the end of the day. So we're going to have distributed workforces, right? Some people are going to be at home, some people are going to be at Starbucks, some people are going to be in the office. And we got to find out the best way to integrate them to really allow collaboration and to get that, 1 + 1 = 3 when we're all working together. Right. And Teams has done a fantastic job with that, because it really is making use of the big monitor and not just taking a desktop app and throwing it up there and losing the video piece of it, which is so important.
Well, it sounds like it's something definitely to
It's
behold,
awesome.
to come on down
It is
there.
awesome.
Well, great. So obviously the first choice would be get on down to the show floor, take a look at it. But if they can't make it to lovely Barcelona,
Jupiter.com. It's pretty easy. Right?
You beat
Just
me
like
to
the
it.
planet. Size matters, right?
I'm going to make sure you said that.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming. So obviously, if you want to find out more about Jupiter, you can head to jupiter.com. If you want to find out more about our exhibitors here at ISE 2022, you can find it here on the AVNation website, on our Twitter feed, a variety of other venues available. But from me, this is the end of my conversation over here with Justin. This is Rich Fregosa for AVNation.tv.